What is up, my friends? How are we? It is Tuesday night, and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. Of course, we'll be discussing Murillo, McAllister, Gravenberch, and Dominic Szoboszlai. We'll have a little look ahead to our possible opponents in the last 16 of the Champions League, as that picture is starting to become a little bit clearer after one of today's results. We'll keep you up to date with what is happening in the Champions League tonight, and as always, we have lots more to go through. Our first poll of the night is currently up and running, and we're asking, do you think Liverpool Football Club extend all three contracts for Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai? Do let us know, and of course this is your show, so let us know what subjects you'd like to discuss and I will do my best to get to them. Most importantly though, I hope you've all had a lovely day so far. It's good to have football back and sit back and we can just enjoy it as neutrals, knowing we're safely tucked away in the next round of the Champions League. If you haven't seen the crazy result from earlier on over in Istanbul, it finished Galatasaray 5, Juventus 2. And amazingly, Juve went in at half-time 2-1 up in that game. A second half red card and a deluge of goals from Galatasaray gives them a really big advantage heading into the second leg over in Turin. And remember, that is one of the possible opponents for the Reds in the round of 16. The draw is as follows for us. It'll either be Galatasaray, Juventus or Club Brugge, Atletico Madrid. Liverpool will face one of those teams in the two-legged last 16 round. Those games will take place 10th and 11th and March 17th, 18th, and the draw for that will be February 27th. But it will be one of those four teams. And the top one, Galatasaray, Juventus, well, it'll take a lot for Juve to turn around that 5-2 deficit. Was watching the game, actually. It was crazy. Really was. And Galatasaray were very impressive in the second half, thoroughly deserving of the victory. And Spalletti's men look like they're going to go out of this season's Champions League. As I said, they picked up a red card in the second half, which was two quick bookings for a substitute that Spalletti actually made at half-time. So yeah, and the other game tonight, it's currently taking place over in Monaco. It's Monaco 2, Paris Saint-Germain 2. At least it was when I was starting the stream. It was Borussia Dortmund 1, Atalanta 0. And I think it was still scoreless in the other tie this evening. So, ladies and gents, how are we all feeling? I want to start off with a potential bit of good news. Adidas is releasing a remake of the Liverpool 1995-1996 away collection featuring the iconic green and white quartered shirt and matching off-pitch gear according to Footy headlines. And I have to say, lads, that is a dream for me. That's my favourite Liverpool shirt. That green and white chessboard one, as I call it. The Robbie Fowler with bleached blonde hair shirt. I will be all over that. And with Carlsberg on the front of it as well. Sign me up for that, please. Sign me up. Aaron Picard said, extend all three, not if Curtis stays. Well, I guess we'll get a better understanding, Aaron, of the situation because Curtis will be renewed first, most likely, if he was going to stay, because his contract is up in one more year. These guys have 2 more years to go. So I guess we'll get a better understanding this summer of what happens with Curtis Jones. I really don't know what way this one goes. I mean, even just to see him linked with a move away in January was a big surprise. Spurs first, and then, of course, Inter Milan at the end of the window. Right, it's Benfica 0, Real Madrid 0 at half-time. Thank you, Tony, in that other game as well. But the one for us today, the one that was important for us was, of course, the Juventus tie against Galatasaray, which, set up nicely. So, I want to bring you to a comment from Alan Shearer about Mohamed Salah and a little bit on Arne Slot as well. So, Alan Shearer said this about Mo since he's come back from the AFCON. He said, did you hear Arne Slot yesterday? He actually went out of his way, I think, to praise Mo Salah's work defensively, which I've noticed in the last couple of games. He's doing a lot more work defensively than I've seen him do for a while. Now, I remember, I think it was Simon Brundish the other day on X. Somebody shared a post with me to say that Simon showed a graphic that showed, well, no, nothing has really changed with Mohamed Salah other than he's getting the ball a little bit more and he's getting more opportunities to make things happen. I know there's been a push really from the likes of James Pearce and others to talk about Mo's defensive work increasing since he's come back, but I'm on Simon Brundish's side with this one. I don't think he done any more or less defensively since he's come back. I think we've just seen a better understanding with his teammates around him at the opposite end of the pitch. The hopeful guy said, this season's Champions League is there for the taking for anyone. It really is. I mean, just looking at the Galatasaray Juve game. It just shows you how far removed Italian football is right now from the top level. Galatasaray, of course, look, they beat us 1-0 over there, so we're not certainly sitting here thinking we're the be all and end all. But I do agree with you entirely. It is very, very open this season, and you could probably pick 6 or 7 teams that you could legitimately think have a chance to go and win it. And of course, we would be one of those, but I don't know, lads. I don't know how I feel at this moment in time about Liverpool, but I do feel more optimistic. I'm certainly happy enough to say that it feels like, whether we've turned a corner or not, fair enough, but at least we've stopped regressing. 60s Red, how are you, mate? Nice to see you in. Craig, if you had to keep 2 of the 3, which 2 would you keep? Ooh, good question, Tyler. Gravenberch and Szoboszlai, most likely. Now, I want to keep all 3, but yeah, look, I've always said, I just have a feeling that McAllister will have another move in his career at some point. Whether it's now, whether it's in the future, I don't know. His father has been quoted again by Win All Sports as saying, Alexis is only focused on Liverpool right now. We're waiting for a contract renewal offer. We'll see what the club's plan is. So hopefully, look, that sounds positive to me, that they're waiting for Liverpool to put a contract offer, an extension in front of his son. So certainly, at least sounds like he's open to it. Yeah, that's positive news for me. The links to Manchester United were just nonsensical. That was never going to happen. But good to hear that Macca's father is focused on extending. Eddie, how are we? Eddie said, this club is going down the toilet. Look, Eddie, I can't believe that as a Liverpool fan, because it just breaks my heart. I'm not saying that you're not right to be downbeat this season, but I don't know, man. I refuse to just believe it's going to be down the toilet. I think certainly a pivotal point in our recent history, what happens this summer. It is going to be a very interesting summer, both with regards to recruitment and, of course, to the head coach situation. But I don't feel we're going down the toilet. I just maybe feel we're not as all-conquering as we believe maybe in the summer, and there's a little bit work to do. But we do need to just increase the size of that squad overall, because it's a little bit threadbare. But the good news, at least some good news, is that it looks like we're closing in on a return for Jeremy Frimpong. They reckon he's about a week away. In a piece I was reading earlier on in The Athletic, Greg Evans writes to say, Liverpool are likely to be without Jeremy Frimpong for another week as he completes the final stages of his recovery from a groin injury. The 25-year-old right-back has missed 4 games and is expected to remain on the sidelines for the trip to Nottingham Forest on Sunday. Liverpool are carefully managing Jeremy Frimpong's return after a stop-start season where he suffered 2 hamstring injuries before the latest setback. Head coach Arne Slot has played a number of midfielders at right-back this season and will consider his options in the days ahead. So, look, for me, that's good news. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen with Frimpong, but to know that he's about a week or so away, that means, right, we get through the game against Forest away, hopefully pick up a good result there, and then Jeremy will be back available for us, which is, of course, much needed as we get into the business end of the season. Hey, Liverpool. Hey, Craig, my Liverpool, the cop will always rule. Yeah, I'm certainly not in the we're going down the toilet camp anyway, Jaden, but yeah, I'm still unsure on the coach, but I feel a little bit more optimistic about where we're heading this season as a team. I do feel that Champions League qualification, that game against Sunderland for me was a huge game. If we had have dropped points in that game, I would have been far more worried than I am. But after us getting that result, and of course showing a bit more confidence as well at home against Brighton in the FA Cup, that's made me feel a little bit better about life. But this 8 days between the last game and the Forest game feels like an eternity. If he stays, I won't watch Liverpool anymore, said Eddie Cox Wilkins. Eddie, I've said something similar, only for I've said I don't know if I'll still be here next season, if Arne is. But it depends how the rest of the season goes, to be honest with you. There was a period of a couple of months of our recent history that it's probably been the toughest time for me as a content creator and a Liverpool fan to stream, because everybody, myself included, were just frustrated and not recognising the team that's out there in front of us. But, slowly but surely, things are hopefully starting to turn. Maybe a little bit more luck coming in our way as well. But this is it now. There's not any more wiggle room. We got to keep pushing forward. And we know the FA Cup draw, as we said, we've got Wolves away. So that's, potentially a quarter-final of the FA Cup if we don't make a mockery of that. Champions League, we know it'll either be Galatasaray, Juventus, Club Brugge or Atletico Madrid. And on that, I want to do that poll in a second to ask, of those four teams, who would you least want to face? Because we were kind of debating this in Discord earlier on. It's looking like it could be Galatasaray. It'd be a huge comeback for Juventus to turn that round. So Galatasaray versus most likely Atletico Madrid. They're two teams that, honestly, it's going to be like pulling teeth playing both of them. We've seen the Galatasaray game away this season already. Victor Osimhen rolling around the ground every 2 minutes, time wasted and the ref buying into it. And we know Atletico Madrid's form and we know their antics. So, we'll ask about that in a while, though. Would you like Dumfries at Liverpool? No, I wouldn't. He's too old. He's a very good footballer, but not for us, not at this point of his career. And again, I think we have enough of a complement of Dutch players at the club at the minute. So I don't want to go down the Erik ten Hag route. That always worries me if a manager keeps going back to a particular league or something like that. With Ten Hag, he just kept going back to the Eredivisie to bring in players, and I know that Dumfries is overplaying in the Serie A now, but no for me, mate. He's just too old. Good player though. Craig, do you think there's anybody on the market who could be better in the sixth than Maka? Yes, of course. Yeah, I do. Look, I think both of those guys are incredible midfielders, but neither of them are really a natural number six. So, a lot of players that we've spoken about, the most likelihood for Liverpool is probably a Prem to Prem move at this point if we're looking for a number six. So I would fully believe it will be, if I put money on it, Wharton would be my guess. But Wharton, Anderson, Baleba, they're the kind of names that have been mentioned. There's obviously the guy from Stuttgart as well, worth keeping an eye on. But yeah, look, honestly, I think they're the ones. And again, if I was betting on it, and it is a bet, Wharton would probably be where I'd push my chips in. Right, loads to go through. Interesting stat here from Centre Goals. And they say, from Transfermarkt, most transfer profit since 2000. This is really interesting. Just to see which clubs have brought in the most money, obviously with big money moves. And this is the most money brought in profit. So, Udinese, €378 million in profit from transfers since 2000. Sporting Lisbon, €428 million in profit in transfers. RB Salzburg, €455 million in profit from transfers since 2000. Lille, €561 million. Ajax, €677 million. Porto, €732 million. But the club far and away, top of the pile with the biggest profit from transfers since 2000 is Benfica, with a staggering profit of €871 million. That is phenomenal business. And as you can see, the top two places in that both taken by the Portuguese clubs, Benfica and Porto. How would you utilise the squad and young players? Well, the squad, I think it's one and the same, because the squad is the squad. It's an easy answer there. I'd be giving CHIESA a few more minutes from the bench. But the youth players, I'd be certainly looking to bring in Rio Engamoa far more for the remainder of this season to fill in and give competition to Cody Gakpo on the left. I'd be looking at the goalkeeper position, to be honest with you, Jaden, as one that we may have to look at bringing through a deputy to Georgie Mamardashvili for the future. So I'll be certainly looking at young Pexi, keeping an eye on him, deciding maybe whether he goes out on loan next season or not. Trey Neone, I think it'll be a big summer for him and a big pre-season. He'll probably try to be pushing on and kicking on into the first team. And after that, you hope Jayden Danns can recover from all of his injuries and maybe give Aaron a bit of a headache there in selection for attackers. Young Lewis Kumas, another name to keep an eye on, of course, as well. It's difficult, and I've always said this, for a manager at a top club like Liverpool to really have the opportunity to play the young players. And that's why I was so pissed off with the League Cup situation, that we didn't mix in a few more senior players into the squad to give us a chance to go a bit further in that competition. Will Wright, yeah, Tanya as well, really good shout. Will Wright, another name definitely worth keeping an eye on. So look, if things go to plan there, the future looks quite bright, but again, it's about getting the balance there. And this is why I'm in favour of Liverpool becoming a multi-club model, or Liverpool's owners starting a multi-club model, because that gives us an avenue for some of these players to go get playing time, play in the Liverpool way, and get an opportunity to really establish themselves in senior first team football. Jason said Dom won't stay. I disagree on that, Jason, but I'll come back to it in a second. Maka, I hate to say, but out of the three, he may be the weakest of them. Suspect he'll go. Good chance Grav stays. If he missed top four, can't see any of them wanting to stay. Well, let's break that down, Jason, bit by bit. So we'll go backwards if that's all right. So we'll talk about the top 4 or 5 first. Well, genuinely, it's up to Liverpool, because they don't have to sell them. They all have 2 years to go on their deals at the end of the season. So if Liverpool wanted to say, well, we're going to keep you for this season because we're going to get back into the Champions League and we're going to back you to deliver that, we could go down that route, and then you'd still have a year to go, and then the players themselves would know at that point if Liverpool have gotten back into the Champions League or not. But I do think we're going to get top 4 or 5 regardless. Now, on the other side of it, I actually disagree on Dom. Now, it's not based off any inside information or anything. I just have a feeling Dom wants to stay at Liverpool, and that Dom is aware of the stature of the club, of course, and of his standing at the club. So for me, I think he will stay. But again, I can't say that with any level of certainty other than just a gut feeling. Nick Raymond said, don't sign all 3, refresh the squad with new blood. And thank you, Nick, for being with us 3 months as a member. Of the 3 of them, if we had to lose one, I would be more open to losing McAllister than the others. But here's an interesting one. I'll ask this as another poll. Remind me, I have 2 polls I want to run. One of them is on the midfield situation, and then I want to run another poll on the opposition for the Champions League. So remind me of those 2 guys if you can, because my dumb ass is going to forget again in a few minutes. Tanya said, we need Dom. He's our main engine and so flexible in position. I'd give him his demands. So here's what I think happens. I think that Dom will get his money, but I think some of that money will come from Mohamed Salah going and his wages. That's my guess at how this pans out. We've seen Saka today sign a new deal with Arsenal, new 5-year deal there. I think he's on 300 grand a week or something like that. And I warned about this when Arsenal gave him the last contract extension, that he's already up to 300 grand a week. So what's going to happen in 2 years' time? Saka's wages, or the next upgrade for his wages, are going to be absolutely astronomical. Like, this guy probably has 2 to 3 more contract renewals in his career. If you're talking about looking at it every 2.5 years for an extension, it's going to be a lot of money tied up for Arsenal for a player that the manager keeps playing into injuries. So let's wait and see what happens there. But that's a lot of money. Sharkovic said he's now on 400k a week. 400k? I thought it was only 300k. Is he really on 400 grand? Seriously? The fuck? Lads. Really? Have Arsenal given him 400th Mohamed Salah money? Wow. Holy shit. I thought it was 3. That's mad. Oh my days. 400,000. Oh my days. That is absolute insanity. What age is Saka? 24? Something like that? 25? That's absolutely ridiculous. Oh my God. That is That is absolutely crazy. What's Keno sent me? Arsenal made Saka best player with new deal. England winger Saka signed a new 5-year deal in 2031. Sources told the BBC the club's best paid player and wages in excess of £300,000 a week, this says. Wow. So it's somewhere between 3 and 400. So even if we split the difference and we say 350, that's crazy. What happens then when there's an next contract extension? He's up there in the £500,000 a week territory? Holy shit. That's going to have repercussions for Arsenal down the line and what they can do in the market. That is a lot of money. Wow. Yeah, I mean, see, we kind of laugh and joke about this, but it also kind of sets a precedent in the Premier League of what players with that much influence in the team are worth to a club. So, all of a sudden now, Dominic Szoboszlai's 300 grand a week starting to look very reasonable. And I say that half joking and half serious. If Saka's going to be on 350 to 400 grand a week, I would say Dominic Szoboszlai, if you can get him between 250 and 300 grand a week, all of a sudden feels like a bargain, which is nuts to say out loud. Jaden said, Craig, why do you like the League Cup over the FA Cup? I think it's just because we've had a lot of success, Jaden, in recent history, or my time watching Liverpool with the League Cup. We're the most successful team in the League Cup history, but I don't know. I think it's just because, you get a chance to win a trophy before the season's properly to the end point. I just haven't, I don't know. I just always had an affinity liking the League Cup, and I can't really tell you why. It's just, it's one that I've always enjoyed, and Liverpool have always had good success in. Nick Raymond said, blaming Slot is too easy for fans. He has no squad depth and has a multitude of injuries. Underperforming players with no true competition. I'd ask more questions of the transfer department. I mean, there's absolutely fairness in what you've said there, Nick. Now, I would disagree on the first part about blaming Slot being too easy for fans, because some of the stuff has come out of his own mouth, as an example. And some of the question of team selection, substitutions, and ignoring certain players. So you're right about squad depth, but he isn't really helping his own squad depth, is he? By ignoring certain players for long periods of time. But you are right, mate. There's no arguing that questions need to be asked of those above him. Because what I don't want to hear is that we go into another summer, Nick, and we spend a lot of money again, and we have to go through another half season of, well, players have to bed in, and all this kind of shite, and it just makes excuses again for failures. Because, it's already been said this year, new players have to settle in. Well, are we going to be in for that again next year? Because we're already sitting here and we're talking about maybe 4, 5, 6 signings in the summer. So are we going to go through the same situation next year of, well, any poor results that Liverpool have are going to be explained away by the fact that we've made wholesale changes again? I guess if some of those changes don't come to the starting 11, or what we would deem to be the starting 11, I guess maybe then it would have a little bit more wiggle room in there. Let's say if we just bring in a number 6 and a centre back, or even just a number 6 and a left-sided player. I'm already squeezing more in here, because I didn't really buy into that. I didn't buy into it. I found it just an excuse to explain away underperformances. Because like I've said, other teams have made plenty of signings and changes, Sunderland being the one that made 13, and they've not had to listen to too many changes or use that as an excuse. Nick said, we came in with 3 fit centre halves, none of which have particularly outstanding seasons. Hard to cope with that. By the way, extra points, Nick, for saying centre halves. I love it. I love the old school philosophy. It is really hard to cope with that, mate. You're right. And serious questions do have to be asked about why we left it so late to go in for a centre back. That's more than fair to ask. Because if you were to say to Liverpool fans at the start of the summer, what are the positions you think we need to strengthen in? Centre back, centre forward, and central midfield, as in deep lying central midfield, will probably be right up there at the very top of the list. And to not bring in a senior centre-back, well, it's already shown up to be a massive gamble. Like, if Canade or Virgil picks up a serious injury between now and the end of the season, an injury that would be a 6 to 8 week one, we're up shit creek. Really. Like, there's no way that Joe Gomez is going to stay fit if he's playing twice a week. So we really would be in a mess at that point, and that is a risk that I said for months, mate, should never have been taken. And the fact that we went to January again, Nick, and didn't bring in anybody in that department, yeah. So I'm agreeing with you that the questions need to be asked above his head, but I just still think the manager does have a fair few questions hanging over him as well. Nick said we need 14 points at least in our next 6 games. Well, I only have the next 4 games to memory, and they're Nottingham Forest away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, and Spurs at home. They're the next 4 league games that I can remember. And of them, I won 12 points, and I think 12 points should be achievable. I'd accept 10, but anything less than 10, and I think we're in trouble, because our final month of the season, May, is very, very difficult if you look at the fixtures. Right, let's check in on our poll. We asked, do you think the club will extend all the 3 contracts of Gravenberch, Dom and McAllister? So do vote away on that one, and when it gets to 1,500 votes, we'll knock it on the head. Ayush, how are you, mate? Said, who do you think will be the breakout star of the World Cup? The next James Rodriguez. There's always one every World Cup that goes for stupid money. So I want to answer your question with a question, and then I will try to answer it. Has there been any of those players that have had that massive World Cup that have really gone on to deliver? Because James Rodriguez didn't. You're right about being the breakout star, but he didn't really kick on after that. His career kind of stalled somewhat. So yeah, it's a good question. Who do I think it'll be? They usually come from an African or a South American team, because most of us would be fairly well versed with the players playing their trade in Europe. So a breakout star usually, in my memory, comes from either one of the African nations or one of the South American nations that we're maybe just not a little bit or as aware of. Don't know, man. It's a good question. Leave it with me. I'm going to try and think of an answer for you. Right. Here's a very interesting stat. We're talking about pace and a lack of pace in the team quite a bit this season. According to the CIES Football Observatory, Hugo Ekitike is the 3rd fastest striker, getting up to 34.9 kilometers per hour in the Champions League this season. And credit to Anfield Watch for that post, by the way. Full credit to them for their post. So yeah, CIES Football Observatory reckon that Hugo Ekitike is the 3rd fastest striker, or the 3rd fastest speed clocked up in the Champions League this season, which is a nice, pleasant surprise. So there we go. Hugo Ekitike, bit of a speedster. Frankie de Jong. I don't think Frankie de Jong's going to be the next breakout star of the World Cup, considering he's like 28. Unless you were answering a different question, mate. Sorry. Right, a little bit on Fede Chiesa. So, Calcio Mercado have said Federico Chiesa will leave Liverpool at the end of the season. He had the chance to join West Ham or Juventus in January, but Liverpool turned down the move. The Reds will want a fee of about 13 to 17 million pound for his sale. Do you think we get it? Honestly, do you think we get a profit on Federico Chiesa? I would struggle to believe we would. Yeah, because he's not really excelled since he's come to Liverpool, and will be 2 years older. I don't know. Will we get the money? It seems small money when we talk some of the fees that we are talking about, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll get it. I think we'll end up letting him go for 10 with some add-ons or something like that. Oh, different question. Sorry, mate. Sorry, my apologies. Oh, were you just answering who you'd like to see maybe brought in as a midfielder? Frankie de Jong's a wonderful footballer, but those wages that he's on at Barcelona, man, are just Crazy, crazy, crazy money. Right, let's keep going. A little bit on Michael Elise I want to bring up later on as well. Where are we at? How many signings do you think we need in the summer? Said Stephen Shenton. It's a good question. Again, I'd have to caveat it, Stephen, by saying depends how many outfield players get moved on, but one centre back because we've brought in Xhaka, but we don't know what's happening with Canade. So if Canade stays, that's actually a really good question. If Canade stays, I would say move Joe Gomez out and bring another one in is most likely what will happen. Because you've got one more year of Virgil, minimum. If Canade stays, you'd have him, Xhaka, Young Leone. I mean, at that point, you're getting into the rounds of being covered. If we sign Canade to a new deal, I don't actually know if we will bring in a centre-back in the summer, outside of Xhaka. I'm just thinking it through here. You'd have Giovanni Leone back. You'd have Weatherly Lucky coming through. You'd have Virgil. You'd have Canade in this instance. And then you'd have Gomez, who you may replace. But if you replace Gomez, what way do you replace him? Do you replace him with a youngster, or do you replace him with another versatile defender, a Geertruida type? So, anyway, let me keep going with the rest of the question. We need a number 6. That's absolutely bona fide. And we need at least one wide attacker. So, I would say we need probably, depending on the Andy Robertson situation at left back, does he stay? Does he go? So, potentially a left back, maybe a centre back, definitely a DM, and a wide forward. And then you're talking about maybe some one out, one ins. 5 or 6 is probably the answer, mate. 5 or 6. Right, what's this from Graham Bailey? Liverpool remain hugely keen on Morgan Rogers, having been long-term admirers of the Aston Villa attacking midfielder. But where do we play Morgan Rogers if we brought him in? Truly, like, where does he play? You know, we've got Dominic Szoboszlai. You've got Florian Wirtz. You've got Gravenberch and Maka. I know that they play a little bit deeper for us. Where does he get in? You know, unless you're pushing him into the wide left channel, I don't know. I don't really know where Morgan Rogers gets enough game time. In all honesty, yeah. I wouldn't be against it because he's a very good player. I can't get my head around how it would all make sense. People may laugh, but we've yet to replace Milner and Hendo. Oh, I'll go one better, dude. We're yet to replace Jorginho Wijnaldum. So I don't think anybody will laugh. I think the point you've made there is pretty fair. Standard bearers who didn't let the levels of fellow players drop without fear of reprisal. Absolutely. Nick, I'm right there with you, mate. That's important. You know, if you look at our squad now, with all the players that are moving on, there aren't many left with that kind of experience, you know, and especially after 2027, when Virgil and Alisson most likely going to be gone. You're looking around going, right, where is the experience there? You've got Maka, of course, who's a World Cup winner, Premier League winner. You'd have nobody at the club at that point, I think, who would have won the European Cup with us. I guess these guys have to establish themselves, though, as leaders, right? And that's where the likes of a Dominic Szoboszlai coming through for that next generation of leadership will be important. Andy Robertson, again, he could be gone this summer, so we don't really know what to expect there. Right, I want to end this poll because I had a couple more I wanted to do. Right, really quick, if you can, folks, vote on this one. We are about 5 votes short of 1,300, so when we get there, we'll knock it on the head. I like to try and get round numbers because I'm weird. Right, so the results of the poll where we asked, do you think that Liverpool will extend the contracts of Gravenberch, Maka and Szoboszlai? Whenever you're ready there, YouTube. please feel free to update the chat with the results of. There we go. 66% of people said yes, they do. 34% said no. Right. Okay, let me just type this out. Okay, let's go with that. Or right. So, who do you not, and I repeat, not want to play in the next round of the Champions League? Juventus, Atleti, Club Brugge, or Galatasaray? It has to be one of those. So, they're the 4 teams that Liverpool will play one of. So, let me know, who do you not want to play? Who would your worst opponent be of those 4 in the round of 16? Do you hate how every one of our midfielders plays well? They get linked to Madrid, Happamaka, Grafenberg, and now Dom. I mean, I would answer it a different way. How many of our players that have been linked to Madrid over the years in recent times have actually gone there for a transfer fee? Trent went for small money, but was basically on a free. Outside of that, when's the last time Madrid came in, paid big money for one of our players? It hasn't really happened. So being linked, I don't mind. No problem with players being linked with moves away, but the likelihood of Real Madrid coming in and paying 100 million plus for Dominic Szoboszlai, I think, is slim to none. So I actually don't think we have to worry all that much about the Dominic Szoboszlai Real Madrid situation, because I don't think they have the money to come and buy him and pay him the money he'd want. So yeah, I'm kind of relaxed about that one, to be honest. If he had one more year to go in his contract at the end of this season, I'd be a lot more concerned. But the fact that he'll have 2 to go, I think gives us a really, really good chance to extend him. Mr. Zane said, I want Galatasaray. Well, it's looking likely that they're going to come through their tie with Juventus, mate. 5-2 up after the first leg. I know they have to go over to Turin, but still, 3-goal lead to take over there is pretty big. Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I'm kind of fed up of playing Atletico Madrid, in all honesty. Who would I fear the most? Atleti probably would be the one I'd want to play the least, because of their antics, because of Simeone, and because historically it's always been a fairly tricky tie for us over 2 legs against Atleti. Yeah, I'd probably say Atleti would be the one I don't want to. But Galatasaray, I feel like we made hard work at Galatasaray away when it didn't need to be. And with the second leg at Anfield, I would back us to go over there and at least keep it tight. You know, whether we come out with a draw or whatever, I'd back us to get the job done at Anfield in the second leg. John O'Meath, how are you, mate? Said, do you think Canade stays? John, I don't know why, and I've nothing really to back this up, but I've started to grow in confidence over Canade staying in the last couple of weeks. Hearing Virgil say that he didn't want his contract extension to go that late, but it did. Hearing Arna say the club are trying to extend. Yeah, I think there's a good chance he could extend. If he continues to play the way he is, I mean, yeah. Sorry, I'm stumbling a little bit here. I struggle to be definitive with it because I really don't know. But again, my gut tells me it's possible. And certainly I feel more upbeat about it than I would have a month ago. Lord Flab said, Macca to United is never happening. He would never lower himself to play for them. And I hate all these rumours of Real wanting any player in good form. Yeah, but most of it's bollocks. The links to Madrid. That's it. It's just used as a way to drive conversation, drive clicks. And with regards to some of our players, sometimes drive contract extension talks. So I don't really... I'm fed up with them, and I get where you're coming from with being annoyed, but there's not one fibre of my body that's seen that link for Macca to Manchester United that thought anything other than it was a joke, like somebody was just taking the piss or chancing their arm because, like, again, it doesn't happen. We don't sell players to Manchester United. They don't sell players to Liverpool. And certainly, if we're going to lose an influential player like Macca, Liverpool would look to move that player outside of the Premier League where possible. Dave O'Cop said we're looking at Roland Salai, Hungarian right back for Galatasaray. Yeah, I think he's wrong, to be honest with you. As he is with a lot of stuff, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I'd be very surprised to see Liverpool bringing in on a full-time deal a 28-year-old. Just don't see it happening. So for me, you know, I think I remember his name coming up at the end of the January window. And I remember speaking to another content creator and kind of both of us laughing it off a little bit. So yeah, I don't think there's anything to that one at all, honestly. So I see a couple of people in the chat talking about Vinicius Jr. and that game. I don't have a clue what's gone on there tonight, so I can't add anything to that conversation for anybody in the chat who's asking about the situation there in the Benfica Madrid game. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Hey Michael, how are you, bro? Said, hi Craig, to compete for all trophies, we need 2 top-class players for every position and top-quality youth coming through the ranks as future players and extra backup for the season. Slot is lost. Definitely agree on the 2 players, and then you want young players there as well. I'm unsure on the manager situation, and that's the honest truth right now. I don't know whether the revival we're seeing is fixture oriented, player oriented, coach oriented, or all of the above. But we can't deny the results have gotten a bit better for us in recent time, which is good. But there's still something. I want to read you out what Wayne Rooney said, which is not a sentence I ever thought I'd be uttering out and talking about agreeing with. But Rooney's been speaking about Arne Slot, and I agree with pretty much everything he said. So he said, I've met him a few times. Seems like a nice fella, but I just don't think for Liverpool he's got that aura about him. And maybe this is because he's just come off the back of Jurgen Klopp. And it's going to be a bit difficult for anyone to have that. So that's exactly how I feel about Arne. I just don't think he has that aura about him whatsoever. Look, nobody's going to be Jurgen Klopp, and I didn't expect Arne to have a Jurgen Klopp level of aura about him. But there's just something that's never really felt... What's the word I'm looking for here? Commanding about Arne. He just kind of strikes me as somebody who wouldn't strike the fear of God into me if I was a player and I was in the dressing room. I just can't see him being that guy, you know, to really just be a cutting person to walk into the dressing room and say something that kind of immediately sets the tone. It just doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. Jaden said we need a Jurgen regen to bring the best out again. Look, Jurgen is a one-off, to be fair. There's not many Jurgen Klopps out there that could come in and just grab the club by the scruff of the neck. But to be honest, we don't need saving at this point. We just need somebody who is able to deal with our stature. And I wonder in that sense, is the club too big for Arne? But in fairness to him, if I'm looking around the world right now, there's not a whole lot of managers there that you would say are ready to just walk into any dressing room and command that respect. Um, yeah. I'm trying to be so respectful in the last few weeks about Arner because I know I've been a lot. I know I've been talking a negative a lot. But I'm trying my best to just kind of hold back a little bit and you see how things play out, because deep down, my opinions are pretty much as strong as they were on believing that he isn't the guy. But I just want to be more respectful of everyone else's feelings as well with it. IFI Must said, I think you want to say the slot lacks all personality. It's difficult because I look at things through the viewpoint of, would I connect with somebody? And I think that's all we can do as human beings. And there isn't one fibre of my body that thinks that I would be motivated by Arne Slot if I was in the dressing room. Now, of course, I'm not in the dressing room, but all football players are made up differently. I can't imagine him having the lads ready to go out there and go to war or really get stuck in. I can't imagine him inspiring a team to the type of comeback that we've seen against Barcelona. I just can't. I said this to you guys before. I remember there was a video emerged of him in the Feyenoord dressing room after they, I think, had beaten Ajax at the Amsterdam Arena. And it was painted to be this motivational, brilliant speech. And I watched it and I was kind of like, eh? You know, if that's him at his fucking motivational best, then I don't get it. Because I didn't find it very inspiring. You know, it was very monotone, very, I don't know, just very, almost too polished. Does that make sense? Like, he almost seems like he's too media polished or too safe. Is that the word I want to use? Safe? Like, I could never imagine him coming into a presser on a rant. Or, you know, saying, fuck this, the PGMOL this, or the owners need to spend more money, or, you know, I just can't imagine it. It just doesn't inspire me. But then again, as I keep saying, people are motivated by different things. Some footballers probably don't want to be shouted at. I'm sure a lot of other footballers would like just small tactical tweaks and bits of information. But like I've always said, I'm old school. I like people to be up on my face. I like to be motivated by emotion. Who are still here? The 5 pillars of the Klopp era. I mean, there's a lot of vague, random, big picture questions you're asking, Jaden. Who were the 5 pillars? I mean, Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah, Firmino, and in all due respect, probably Henderson of the era. You know, you can look back more and talk about Mane, but use the word pillars. And I would say probably Firmino, Henderson, Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah would be the 3 off the top of my head that I would say would be pillars. As in important, really important to everything that was good about us, everything about our mentality, our makeup. They'd be probably the 5, I'd say. A. Michael said, it's not just about the results, I'm playing better. There are many factors and too many red flags that concern me, and this isn't the complete package, the coach. For us, his ideology overall doesn't fit. Yeah, that sounds about right. Sorry, that sounds about right. Robbo's, yes, sorry, Robbo's fair. I probably should have put Robbo in that 5, but who do I take out? Because honestly, I think every one of the 5 players that I've mentioned are hugely important factors. If you look at the Bobby Firmino factor, well, he was the one that knitted together the attack. He was also the kind of peacemaker between Mane and Salah on occasion. And then Henderson, he was our captain. And honestly, I admired tremendously the way Jordan Henderson didn't take the easy route out of Liverpool when we could have swapped him for Clint Dempsey at Fulham. But he dug his heels in. He wanted to stay. He wanted to make it at Liverpool. And That really meant a lot to me that Jordan Henderson stayed and fought his way back into the manager's thinking and became the club captain, and what an incredible captain he was when he was at the club. So, yeah, I find it very difficult to swap out him for somebody else. I think that's why I was so annoyed when Henderson went the way he went, with all the bullshit about wanting to grow the game and all that crap. Because I had so much respect for Jordan Henderson, like so much, that I just couldn't believe he did that in the way he did. Because for a man that stayed at Liverpool and proved his point to become the captain and a mainstay in the midfield, to kind of almost throw his toys out of the pram at the first sign of more competition in there, it just felt very unlike the Jordan Henderson that had come to be the leader in that dressing room. Someone said the Mane and Firmino disrespect is wild. Where was the disrespect, you fucking idiot? Now that's disrespectful and that's intentional. But where's the disrespect? Because they didn't because I didn't say the players you wanted, it's disrespect, you absolute clown. You know we can only have 5, right? And genuinely, neither of those two were pillars of our success. Neither of them. Truly, they weren't. They were important factors, but not pillars. Not actual bona fide take them out and we're up shit creek. And I think the 5 players I mentioned, and a few more like Andy Robertson that the chat mentioned, are those guys. So, yeah. It's not about disrespect. It's just about you being a petulant little bitch who didn't like the answer. And again, people throw around the word disrespect and abuse way too often these days, and it does my fucking head in. Because, just because somebody doesn't like what you like or who you like doesn't mean it's a disrespectful thing. It's just an opinion, mate. Get over it. Somebody else trying to make it about race. So Virgil isn't black, dickhead, no? If we're trying to make it about race, what colour is Virgil? Is Virgil not black? I swear Virgil's black and he was in my list of important players. So again, it's got nothing to do with Mane's skin colour, you absolute cretin. I just don't think Mane was as important as Bobby. Bobby for me was a pillar. And do you notice I didn't put Salah in my 5 there, if I remember correctly? Or did I? Oh, I think I did actually, sorry. But yeah, I just don't think he was a pillar or as important as the other ones. Jaden said 66 was probably a semi-pillar, especially with Salah. Yeah, you see, here's what I would say about Trent. Trent is probably somebody I took for granted at Liverpool because he was that homegrown guy and he came through the youth team. He was a Scouser born and bred. It almost just felt like he was supposed to be here, if you get me. So yeah, that's a fair point. He was certainly pivotal to a lot of what we did, and a lot of our attack. So yeah, I would agree, semi-pillar. That's probably the right way to put it, yeah. Andy Robertson is the one that I do feel really bad for not putting in the 5. Like, he's the one that, if I had a 6 spot, that person he'd go in there. They're all coming in tonight. Revolving door is working well. It's just assholes. Simple as that. That think they're funny. But again, as you said, they've very quickly been shown the door and put out, and that's where they'll stay. I don't want to go to member-only chat, like I keep saying, but I do have the option to do it. I just don't want to do it because I want everyone to have a chance to have a say. But like we always say, we're not putting up with any idiots in the chat. What's the Frimpong news? Hope you're well. The news is good news. This piece here from Greg Evans said Liverpool will likely be without Jeremy Frimpong for another week as he completes the final stages of his recovery from a groin injury. And the reason I say it's good news is I thought he might have been a bit longer than that. So the fact that it looks like the Forest game will be the last game Frimpong misses, I take that as a bonus personally, because I thought it might have been a bit longer. So yeah, one more game for him out before he's back, which is really good news. And that's with the club being, as Greg Evans said, extra cautious about the situation. Let's talk about this from Team Talk. Team Talk said Liverpool see Michael Olise as the closest thing to a perfect Mohamed Salah replacement. However, Bayern Munich have zero intention of selling the former Palace winger and are even preparing new contract talks despite his deal running until 2029. Olise himself is in no rush to return to the Premier League. Liverpool are also tracking Yan Diamonde, Nico Williams, PSG duo Desiree Doué and Bradley Barcola. Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Real Madrid and Barcelona are all interested in Olise, but any deal would likely exceed €100 million. I think he'll do one more year in Bayern personally before he moves on somewhere. Hopefully that would be to Liverpool, but I truly don't know where he ends up. But I don't think he's going to be a player that stays at Bayern Munich for 5-6 years. I just don't. I think he will do 2-3 years there and then move on. Did you hear about Vinny Jr.? No, I didn't. I haven't. Oh, well, I've seen the chat speak a little bit about Vinny Jr., but I don't know what's gone on in the Benfica Real Madrid game because I don't have it on. Whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be sorted out. But again, if there was any racist abuse or anything like that, no room for it. I know Vinny Jr. has come in. I don't like Vinicius Jr. as a footballer or the way he goes on, but I absolutely detest the racial shit aimed towards him. There's just no place for that, You can call him a diva, you can say he rolls around too much, you can call him a prima donna, whatever. But I don't see the need to make anything, or ever see the need to make anything about someone's skin colour. It's just... Oh, I read a really interesting... I guess it was a joke tweet earlier on that said, in 2014, footballers were far more likely to be bitten by Luis Suarez than a shark. And that kind of made me smile. Like, that's the kind of tweet that I enjoy. Somebody posted it in our Discord group, and it was a good bit of fun. Martin Nolan, how are you, Martin? Said, who wins the World Cup? I hope it's not England. I think, do you know what? If the World Cup was in Europe this time round with that English team, I think they'd have a really, really good chance, Martin. I think the fact that the weather is going to be scorchio in the United States may actually lean into going against the English national team. So for me, I'm going to go Spain. Spain to give a Euro World Cup double. After that, well, you look at the quality in that French team. There's not lacking in any position. Argentina, of course, the defending World Cup champions. Brazil, look, I think this is one of the poorest Brazil sides in modern history. So Argentina might be there or thereabouts. Yeah, I don't think Germany are going to be really there at the final bits and pieces. But Spain, I probably will put a few bob on Spain before the tournament, in all honesty. 60s Red said, so talk Isak could be back in March and Swedish manager is looking at him for the qualifier. Yeah, don't know how to feel about that, because it actually helped us out a little bit the last time that he got some training and a few minutes with the Swedish national team. So maybe that's a good thing. I just hope that, and I'm sure it will be done cautiously, because I think, do they have a playoff? Something like that, Sweden? A Nations League playoff, maybe? Something like that? Because I know they didn't qualify for the World Cup. So I don't think they have a playoff through the World Cup group stages. But I think, have they got a playoff for a Nations League spot or something like that? Still feels weird, by the way, reading Swedish national team manager and then seeing, fucking the manager that's there. Like, it just feels weird seeing Graham Potter as the Swedish national team manager. Mr. Zane said Argentina, France, Spain, Portugal, these are favourites. I think all very good shouts. I always probably underestimate Portugal a little bit, but it's it's more than fair of you to put Portugal's name into that mix with the calibre of footballers that they have. Martin said they have a playoff in March. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. I don't think they'll get through their playoff. I mean, they've been absolutely dog shit in recent qualifiers and stuff. So, Gary said, to be honest, couldn't care less who wins the World Cup. But what if it's us, Gary? What if it's Ireland? I'm assuming you're Irish, by the way, with the name Gary Nolan, but maybe you're not. What about Troy Parra, hat-trick in the final to break Messi's heart? Right, don't forget, our poll is running in the chat. We're asking, who do you not want to play in the next round? Liverpool have 4 potential opponents: Juve, Atleti, Club Brugge or Galatasaray. They are the 4 opponents that Liverpool could face. Would you sell Salah and buy Barcola if it was break-even? I'm not a huge fan, Spency, of Barcola. I think he's very wasteful. So he wouldn't be my choice. And with regards to the break-even thing, as a fan, I'm not really arsed about the finances. That's for others to worry about. If the club can afford to do a deal, great. But no, not Barcola. He wouldn't be top of my list. I would prefer Doué if we're looking for somebody from PSG. But, Michael Elise is the dream. And I don't even know, if you guys put a percentage on the chance that you think we get Michael Elise in the next 18 months, what would it be? Give me a percentage. Because for me, I'm probably at 30, 35% maybe. What about Diamonde? I haven't seen enough of him. Nate is the honest answer, mate. I haven't seen enough of him playing for Leipzig to know how good he really is. I'll certainly spend a lot more time over the next few months keeping track of him and having a look, with the sheer amount of talent or talented clubs that are after him. He must have something about him, but, I'd be a liar if I told you that I knew all that much about Yan Diamonde, mate. I don't. John O'Mead said 25%, Ben 25%, Riley 205%. Can you be my accountant? Jonathan 15%, 12%. That's very specific, Samuel. I like it. 12%. Mark Wilby 10%, 30% for Tony Shallow, Toby 20, David Massett 20 or 30. Excuse me, David. Yeah, I'm kind of in and around there as well. It'd be the dream, but I just don't see it as likely, unfortunately. Kai, so I think it's quite realistic we could get Elise, because where else would he go? I mean, it's a fair point, Kai. If you look at it and think, right, who would have €100 million available in the next 18 months? Yeah. Would Madrid pay up that much of a transfer fee to bring in a player there with the wages required on top of it? I'm not sure. Premier League clubs, Manchester City will probably be there if they're not relegated at that point. Chelsea, you can never rule Chelsea of anything with their ownership group, the way they spend money. United, I don't know. Depends, I guess, how United get on over the next few months. And if they can have a decent season next season, maybe they could have a chance of attracting them there. Arsenal, no, I just don't see that. I don't see Arsenal having the availability of funds to do it. If they're after giving that big contract as well to Saka. If we knew what we know now about Ekitike, would you have bought Isak? That's a really good question. The answer is probably no, because I don't think we would have needed to spend that much money on another striker if we knew that Ekitike was going to be what he has been since he's come in. Now, I'm really happy we have Isak, don't get me wrong, and I'm certainly not wishing the lad away, but No, I think you could have probably brought in a striker somewhere between the 50 to 70 bracket, and maybe taking a bit more of a punt on somebody rather than going for that bona fide Premier League proven in Isak. You know, we dropped 200 million quid like on two strikers. So yeah, if I knew what I knew now, like you said, no, I probably wouldn't. I probably would have liked to have seen the money spread around a little bit more. It's a good question though. I mean, what did the chat think? Would you have done it if you knew that Ekitike was going to have the start to his career that he's had? Because look, we need to bring somebody in. You know, we knew with the tragic passing of Diogo and the situation with Darwin, we knew we were going to need two attacking players. So I'm just trying to think around who else, like, cause in a world where we knew what Ekitike was going to be, who else could we have looked for in the kind of price bracket that might have worked for us? Um, I've always said to you guys, I was a fan of Mbomo. I really, really, really like him as a player. I know he's a United player now, but I think he's a really good player. Cunha, not really one for Liverpool. Sheshko, no, not really. But again, a talent just not right for the way we play. Yeah, I can't really think of who else. If we're looking for that second attacking, I wouldn't have touched Victor Gyökeres with a barge pole. João Pedro's a good shout, Spencer. João Pedro is a good shout. He was a very interesting proposition at that point. So yeah, I think I probably somewhere along that route I'd probably be with you there. Somebody like him would probably have been a great shout. Semenyo. Oh look, there's the two signings Manchester City made in January. In my head, should both be Liverpool players. I just think we missed an open goal there. You know, for a combined transfer fee of what 85 million quid, you got two Premier League proven versatile players in their positions. You know, you've got Gay who can play back three, back five. You can play Elise, or not Elise, Semenyo either side, easily one of the most naturally two-footed players I've seen in a long time, maybe since Lallana. And you've seen the start he's made to his time with Manchester City already. I think it's like 5-4 or something like that in his last few games. Thiago, I don't think Brentford's Thiago is a Liverpool type of player. You know, he's I don't want to say a workhorse, but he's a good, strong target man type centre forward. Like if you're playing the way they play with like long throw-ins, set pieces, he is a real, you know, himself and Brian Broberry, both very physical centre forwards, both very good, but I just, not for Liverpool, not in the way that we play. I just don't think it'd be a good fit. Johan Visa, I've never really rated Visa the same as others have. I'm not saying he's a bad player, by the way. I don't mean that at all. But of the group from Brentford, he was probably the last one of that Ivan Toney, Johan Visa group, and that I would have looked at. You know, I just not for me. And Mbomo, of course, as well. So if you had those three, Brian Mbomo, Ivan Toney, and Johan Visa, over the time at Brentford, I would have said Visa would have been the last one on that list for me. What about Krupi? I don't know much about Krupi. I don't know much about him, other than he's had a very good start to life at Bournemouth, isn't it? Other than that, yeah, I don't know too much about him, in all honesty. Julian Alvarez, David Massett said, look, I showed you guys all summer. Julian Alvarez was my dream. I knew it was always unrealistic because he doesn't want to come back to the Prem. But yeah, Julian Alvarez. If we had Alvarez and Ekitike, that would be a dream. Honestly, that would be an absolute dream. Paul, have a lovely one, bro. Thank you for dropping in. Appreciate you. Ronan said Delap. Delap, it's a weird one with Delap. Like the few Chelsea fans I know really aren't happy with Delap. They just aren't. I haven't really paid too much attention to him at Chelsea to really know. I thought he would end up at Manchester United, in all honesty. When he was going to move, I did think that's where he'd end up. But yeah, I mean, he's not really pulling up any trees so far. And again, it's his first season at Chelsea, so I say that mindful of that fact. Would you have taken Mbomo and Ekitike? See, Mbomo isn't really a central striker, so I would have taken him as the wide option. Definitely, I've said it multiple times. I really do rate him as a footballer, but not for the second striker, no. But as a player, yeah, I think he's begrudgingly. I admit this because he's a United player, but I really do think he's a top quality player. Kevin Hankin, how are you, bro? Lovely to have you in. Hope you're well. Connor was down in the Burren today. He sent me a video of himself and his missus driving along the Burren in County Clare, and my God, it just screamed rally, that road. Never been down to County Clare, but looked gorgeous. Oh, the weather wasn't great, but good to see Connor having a nice time. Oh, I got another signed item in the post today. We bought this one from the club directly. I'll bring it up on screen and show you now. So I was going through the stuff that I have in my house and the few bits and bobs we bought for the new studio, and I thought to myself, hang on a minute, Craig, there's something missing here. And I think you can see from the head there exactly what was missing. It was this beauty here. There you go. Got that today in the post. That will be taking pride of place on the walls in the Anfield Agenda studio without any shadow of a doubt. I love the little silver plaque, the way the club do it there at the bottom as well. Oh, funny story. Do you know how I paid for this? This is a funny story. So I bought that there for the office, but how I paid for it, that's kind of a funny story. So remember I told you, oh, wrong one. Where you go? Remember I told you I bought my daughter a new car? Well, when we bought the car from Dacia, we got a £250 voucher, prepaid debit card. So I used the prepaid debit card that I got from Dacia when we bought our daughter the Duster, and bought the signed Kenny picture with that. So cheers, Dacia. Thanks for my signed Kenny Dalglish picture. Paid for it with your vape shop. I don't have a vape shop, mate. I don't actually like vaping, if I'm being really honest with you. And I certainly wouldn't own a vape shop. Wouldn't be my cup of tea at all. Keane said, do we move towards a two-striker formation with Flo in behind, or stick with the one and wingers for next season with Isak coming back? Yeah, good question. I feel like we'll stick to a one-striker system, but there will be occasion where one of the two boys might go out to the left, would be my best guess at it. Like, I really don't see him moving to a 4-4-2 diamond or a 3-5-2 as much as I'd love it. So I think we'll probably stick with one, but sometimes he might try to shoehorn both in and maybe move Ekitike out to the left. Jaden said both strikers were needed because Nunes and number 20. Oh, yeah, they were both needed, definitely, mate. But what I'm saying is, did we need to drop £200 million on two strikers? So the question was, if we knew what we knew about Ekitike and how well he'd started, would we have still spent the money on Isak? And I have to say, if I was in charge, no, I probably wouldn't. I probably would have wanted to bring in another striker, all right, but I probably would have looked for somebody of the mould of a Julian Alvarez or maybe a João Pedro, something like that, not to be the main guy. So is Slot staying next season? My information, Shay, hasn't changed, by the way. So let me just put that out there. The information that I had that he's going to be fired in the summer hasn't changed. Now, of course, if he pulls the Champions League out of his backside, everything could change. But my understanding is still that he won't be here in the summer. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see on it. Paddy said, is it just my imagination or is there a glitch on your side? Is it me disappearing off screen for a second? Because if that's the case, it's happened a few times on OBS recently. And I checked all the connections earlier on the camera and stuff like that. And yeah, it wasn't loose or anything. So if that's what you're talking about, yes, it's happened on a few occasions where I disappear and then come back and maybe go blue for a split second. What's your Liverpool 11 in the academy only? Mate, I'm not answering that. It's just too much. I can't go through 11 based off local and academy only. That's a question I need an hour, a pen and paper, and time to think about. I can't just throw you out an 11 of local / youth players. Like, I mean, it's asking a bit much there, mate, to be fair. And I probably wouldn't even do it justice, in all honesty. Like, I'd be the first one to say to you, Jaden, I'm not as up to speed on the underage players at Liverpool as I'd want to be, because I just don't have enough time to really sit there and watch the academy games and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm always a little bit late to the party on that one, mate. Jack Gill used to help out a lot with some background work on the underage players. It's probably, if we were to bring somebody else into the channel, that's probably the one area where I'd actually look to get somebody to kind of start doing the groundwork for, watching the younger players and see who's coming through and progressing, because I really could do with being briefed a little bit more on that. All right. So apologies, mate, on that one. Right, where are we on our poll? What was the other poll I said I was going to do, folks? We've done the one on the contract situation. We're doing the one on the Champions League opponents, but there was one more I said I was going to go, and I can't remember what it is already. So yeah, if you can think of it, if you remember, do let me know, and I'll get the poll up in a minute or two. Why do you think Slot gets fired at the end of the season, but why not now? Why not rescue the season? We play well, then we play shite. I mean, look, I agree with you for what it's worth. My point would have been I would have fired him in the season, but I'm guessing that the club's viewpoint is that it's less risky to stay with who we have now than to maybe roll the dice on an interim. And again, what options are available in an interim capacity? Would Alonso want to come in midway through a season as an example, or would he want to wait till the summer? But I'm with you, mate. I would have sacked him after the Forest game. That was it for me. But look, I don't agree with the way it's gone, but I can understand it. I can understand FSG, Hughes and Edwards thinking, no, we're going to stick here to the end of the season. We think he'll get us Champions League and we'll go from there. I don't agree with it, but I definitely can understand and empathise with that side of thinking. It's just, I disagree. Midfielders. Was it midfielders? I feel like... Was it midfielders? Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to think, because I think we did the midfielders one the other day. And it was Wharton. So yeah, apologies. I've just drawn a blank, sorry. Sorry, just like the way you think and answer questions. No, Jake, look, it's always good. It's always good, mate. But if there's one blind spot that I have around Liverpool, I would always say it's the underage teams. I don't get a chance, mate, to pay enough attention there as I'd like to. So yeah, apologies on that for me. Malty said he's definitely not getting sacked. Well, respectfully, I disagree. My information is and has been that he's gone in the summer. Now, if he pulls the Champions League out of his backside, maybe things change. But honestly, mate, my information is that he's gone in the summer, as I've said multiple times on here. But let's wait and see. For me, though, I'm looking at it going, well, if he wins the Champions League, happy days. As a fan, that's a good season if he wins the Champions League. So I'm trying to bite my tongue a little bit and think it's kind of win-win. If he does what I don't think he's going to do and pulls a Champions League win out of his backside, he deserves to keep his job. Because if we've won a Champions League, we haven't fluked it. You'd have played some good teams and you've had to have played some good football to win it. And the other side of it, if we underachieve, which to me, by the way, is not winning a Champions League at this point. I know other people have said that an FA Cup win in top 4 or 5 is still a good season. For me, I think there's too much revisionism in that to allow it to be a good season. You would have salvaged something from the season, and it's always good to pick up a trophy, but I wouldn't class that as a good season. Even allowing for the way this season has gone, I still think, no, that's not what I would class as a good season. A. Michael said, totally agree with you, mate. If they'd known Ekitike was this good, they definitely wouldn't have spent the money on Isak. Well, let me put it to you this way, A. Michael. It feels like now that we're a little bit short in other areas, you wouldn't actually have to question if we needed to drop 125 million quid on a striker. Because if they believed in Ekitike, which they clearly did because they spent the money to bring him in, I can understand the questioning about, did we need to drop 125 million, especially when we are short in other areas of the pitch. But at this point, my brain thinks, well, we have Isak and Ekitike. It's up to them now to make sure that the squad depth is there. So the squad depth isn't there, and that isn't fair on Arna. I will admit that. He hasn't been given enough squad depth, but I really, really, really don't think he's made the most out of the players that he has available to him either. I'd give Rio 3 seasons before he becomes the next Mo. I don't even think he's going to need that long, Jaden. I think we'll be talking about Rio in the same type of breath as Saka, let's say, by the end of next season. I think we'll be talking about Rio having got to the point where you'd be surprised if he isn't starting most weeks. Have you seen the rumours on Eli Jr. Krupi? I have, but I was just saying earlier on, Cameron, I don't know all that much about him. I know, what is he, 18 or 19, something like that. Young player gone into Bournemouth this year in his first season, I think. I've seen the links, but don't know much about him. Dean said, I like Gakpo, not sure he's good enough in the position he plays. So for me, Dean, and again, feel free to disagree, I think the biggest thing Cody Gakpo suffering from this season is the fact that we don't have that other versatile player on the left. So there isn't a Luis Diaz there, that if it isn't working or we need to change it up a little bit. And I think that's probably added to some of the grief that Cody's gotten this season. Kilo said, I hated seeing Isak and Gakpo start together. Two guys that aren't fleet of foot out there, wanted to pull my hair out. Yeah, I still don't know what really to expect long term from Isak. Will he ever be prolific? Because let's be honest about this. We're spending 125 million quid on a striker. He should be our top scorer next season. This season obviously he won't be, but if he isn't top scorer next season, you don't drop 125 million quid on a striker to come in with 10 or 15 goals a year. You don't. You want that outlay to be giving you upwards of 20 goals a season. So, yeah, he really does have even more pressure on his shoulders now for next season, Isak. He probably gets the rest of this season to get back to fitness and, start to find a bit of form. But next season, it's the real test because he's got to start living up to that price tag. Uh, Tahamoin said, I don't know why the fan base doesn't like Anthony Gordon. Surely there's a possible option out there in the summer. I think he would run through a wall. So I would be somebody in the camp of, I like Anthony Gordon. I've said this a few times on the channel over the years. Don't think he's a 95 million pound player, but do like him. Do agree with you that he'd run through a brick wall because he is a Liverpool fan. And I feel like he come in with wanting to prove a point that he should be here. So, yeah, for me, I wouldn't have had any concerns if we brought in Anthony Gordon. Craig, would you want Gordon as a Salah replacement? No. No, I'd want Gordon on the other side. Yeah, for the Salah replacement, it has to be someone of the Elise calibre for me on the right. Unless we move Rio across. I know the world's absolutely fascinated with inverted wingers, but, you know, sometimes it's okay to have a right-footed winger on the right and a left-footed winger on the left. Trucking Song said, I like Anthony Gordon. I went to the derby when he was an Everton player and we won 2-0. He was a massive danger. Oh, he definitely has the ability to be a pain in the arse for teams. He really does have the factor of pace and directness to him that can cause problems. 100% agree with you on that. Can Isak play on the wing? He has played on the left side before, but no. He's like, if you look at it, Ekitike is far more mobile in the way that he drops into pockets or the way he comes to look for the ball. Isak is more of a put it into the 6-yard box and you know, let him do his thing, watch time his runs, put it into the right areas for him. You know, as somebody said here the other night, exactly what Newcastle did. They knew how to get the most out of Isak and they knew where to put the balls in for him. So no, I would say Ekitike would be much more likely to drift onto the left than Isak personally. Johnny said, much love from Norway. Love the streams lately. Thank you. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Yeah. These quiet times are both good and nerve-wracking for me. They're good because we all get to know each other a little bit better and we can have proper, more in-depth conversations. But as a content creator, you're always nervous that your audience is disappearing when there's quiet times. And Connor always tries to reassure me during these times. But, you know, I'm just a worrier, a natural anxious person. So when our numbers aren't where I'd like them to be, you know, I start to think about, oh shit, I'm screwed. Scouser8 said, can't be doing much more of this 8 days between games. So I thought about that today, mate, and I thought exactly what you thought. And then I thought, you know, selfishly, as a content creator, the playoffs would have been 2 more games for me to do on the channel. But I'm glad we aren't in the playoffs. I just hope that we don't get a bit of rustiness from not having to be in the playoffs in the Champions League, if that makes sense. Because I think part of Paris Saint-Germain coming into form last season, a lot of that confidence could have come from that 10-0 victory over they had over Brest over 2 legs. You know, that probably really did give them a lot of confidence and impetus to push on to win the Champions League last year. So, you know, there's something to be said for being battle-hardened and battle-ready as well. So the clubs that have to go through that playoff round, they're still in that rhythm. Usually, at least my memory of Liverpool having a long time between games doesn't go well. You know, my recollection is whenever we have, you know, warm weather training camps in winter or 8 days between games, we don't come back looking like I'd want us to. Like Man City, a good example. If I'm not incorrect, I think we had 8 days. And Manchester City had a midweek game in the League Cup. And, well, we lost that game. Jaden said, I don't think Rio or another Liverpool winger or even Ekitike would reach Salah's legacy or height, he said. But will probably go close and be second best. I don't think anybody in my life will do the number Salah's done. I really don't, mate. I think, you know, I've been watching Liverpool now for 36 years. And I don't think anybody will get to Salah's level, ever. Which is both good and sad to say, because, this feels like the start of the long goodbye for him and that incredible era. But I'm also sort of excited to see what does come next, and, which players become the next icons, the next superstars at the club. Thundercats Litterbox, again, absolutely one of my favourite account names, said, I think we should sell Maka. I remember Fabinho started the show signs where he was falling off the season before. I see the same in Maka, Wharton in. It's mad though, because you think Maka had 2 more years minimum before you'd start to see those real wear and tear signs. But with Fabinho, you're right, it happened so quickly, didn't it? He went from being this absolute swashbuckling, I used to call him the octopus because he just had legs that went everywhere, into this player that looked like he was running in toffee over the course of one summer. Like, he just seemed to age overnight. But I loved him at the club, by the way. I really did love Fabinho's time at the club. Sorry I missed it. Any news on Maka? We were talking about comments his father made, mate, and I'll read them out to you now. And thank you, by the way, the Bins, for being with us as a member for 25 months, man. Absolutely incredible. So, Alexis McAllister's father, speaking to Women All Sports, said, Alexis is only focused on Liverpool right now. We're waiting for a contract renewal offer. We'll see what the club's plan is. And I like the wording of that. I like that he said, we'll see what the club's plan is. Putting the kind of ball back in Liverpool's as in, like, well, we expect to stay. We expect Alexis to get a contract renewal offer. So, yeah, let's wait and see what happens. Right, I want to talk about Murillo for a little bit. So, Peter O'Rourke put out a piece that said, Liverpool are prepared to facilitate a move for Murillo to help strengthen their defensive options. The defender is valued at about £50 million from the Nottingham Forest, which, by the way, I think is on the low side. But if Nottingham Forest may have to settle for less if they get relegated, he's adamant he doesn't see himself as a championship player. Now, if Forest did get relegated, absolutely, we should be looking at Murillo as an option. But if they stay up, I don't think you get him for 50 million quid. He signed a new contract, I think, last season. So I think if you're talking about Murillo, you could probably stick another 15, 20 million quid on that, in all honesty. But if they go down, somebody made a really good point. I think it was Miguel Delaney on Sky Sports back pages last night. And it's a question I never really thought of before. But the way Spurs are in this position where they're just hovering above the relegation zone. I think it's gone from 13 points down to 5. Do you reckon any of those Spurs players have relegation clauses in their contract? Because, when you think about Spurs and the recent project, they got the new stadium, which is absolutely incredible. They've had Champions League football. They've been to a Champions League final. They won the Europa League last year. And now they're in a genuine position where a couple of more shitty results and they could be dragged into a proper relegation battle. That would be nuts. And again, do those players have relegation clauses in their contract? Is it a standard thing that clubs would put in every contract just in case? Because, I'd find it, again, difficult to think Liverpool have relegation clauses in their deals. Jaden, again, loads of super chats from you tonight, my man. Thank you. You're very kind. Said, to me, I've been thinking about this season. Bradley and Frimpong are two sides of one Trent coin plus or minus his creativity, one for defence and one for attack. I agree. I think they're both really good fullback options when fit in different ways to some extent. I think Frimpong probably has a bit more end product in the final third, but I think Bradley has a little bit more dynamism about him at times, or a little bit more directness to him. But nobody in the right back position is really going to have the impact Trent had. I mean, he was a bit of a unicorn there. Yeah. I remember there's a comment from Neil Atkinson of the Anfield Wrap that's always stuck in my head when talking about Trent. When there was that conversation about whether he should go into midfield or not. And it was a simple comment, and I think he said something like, Trent has to have a conversation about whether he wants to become a very good midfielder or the best right back in the world. And that always stuck with me because I thought Neil got the nail on the head with that. I thought it was spot on. And it kind of, again, like I said earlier on, always took him for granted because he was a Scouser. That he was just come through the club, cost us nothing, and he was there. And I'd be a liar if I said I haven't wondered if he had stayed, what this season may have looked like. Where we may have been, or would the season have looked any different? What do you guys think? Do you think if Trent had stayed, we would have been in a better position in the league this year than we're in? Of course, Craig, always plus the paycheck hit today. Well, don't go wasting it all, mate. Money's hard to come by these days for everyone. Yeah, definitely me included as well. So yeah, I appreciate you, but never put yourself out financially or anything like that, my man. I'd hate to see that happen to anybody. It's JB said, Craig, Gallo won 5-2. Do you think there's a chance of playing them now? And does it make you more worried or easier? Oh, I actually watched that game earlier on. I watched the entirety of it. And a half time when they were 2-1 down, I didn't think we'd be sitting here talking about a 5-2 Galatasaray victory. But they thoroughly deserved it. They were brilliant in the second half. Stupid red card for Juventus. And I just don't see Juventus turning that over. I can't imagine Galatasaray not grabbing a goal over there or not slowing down the game enough or making it stop-start enough that they concede or they lose by 3. So I think I think it's going to be Galatasaray that comes through there. And then, as I said earlier on, the other tie that we could face the winner of is Club Brugge and Atletico Madrid. So the two-legged last 16 ties are scheduled to be played on March 10th, 11th and March 17th, 18th. Liverpool, as a seeded qualifier, will host the second leg of the tie at Anfield in principle, and the draw for the round of 16 is February 27th. Now, we know, of course, that it'll be one of Galatasaray, Juve, Club Brugge or Atletico Madrid. And it's looking like most likely Galatasaray. So we ran a poll earlier on, or I think it's the one we have now, where we asked, who do you not want to play in the round of 16? And 52% of over 1,500 votes said that they don't want to play Atletico Madrid. Galatasaray second with 20, Juventus 16, Club Brugge 13. I think I agree with that. Now, the reason I don't want to play Atleti again is kind of, 1, I'm fed up of playing them. 2, Simeone does me bicky in. And 3, they're always arduous affairs. It's like pulling teeth playing them over 2 legs. Kilo said Juve are not a very good team. Nope, Italian football is just not great at the minute. It really isn't. I was watching and they were trying to big up that Juventus team when I was watching the game earlier on, talking about the likes of Lloyd Kelly as an example and how brilliant he's been and how close he must be to getting into Thomas Tuchel's team. But I was looking at that Juventus team and thinking, outside of Keenan Yildiz, there's not really anybody else there I'd be excited for or that I'd take. It's just Italian football is just nowhere near where it was. When I was growing up, Italian football was it. That's where the money was. That's where all the superstar players were. Italian football was the pinnacle. And now with, a few of the, shall we say, scandals that they've had, it's just not where it used to be. And it's becoming more and more clear over the last few years quite how good the Prem is, and how high quality it is right down throughout the division. Well, maybe a handful of teams aside. Callum said, Craig, would you take Camavinga at Liverpool? Yes, I would. Now, I think this season he's had injury concerns. I don't follow Real Madrid all that much, but he's an outstanding, exceptional player. And yes, I would absolutely have Eduardo Camavinga. I think he's brilliant. Do you think Mo misses Trent, Diaz and Darwin? A really good relationship with them? Of course. Yeah, it must be. And of course Diogo as well. But we know, with Darwin as an example, we know what a relationship Mo had with Darwin. Even on the pitch, they had a really good understanding. Trent, as you said, there's no denying that he misses Trent. Trent was perfect for Mohamed Salah and, for the way that we played. So yeah, no doubt in my mind he misses those players. And of course I'd put Diogo into the mix as well. Mulder, I think I may have missed your super chat, mate. Let me just check back for you, bro. Oh, I did miss it, sir. You're right. Thank you for giving me a nudge. Ekatike performing, we could bring in Parrott. Look, even I as an Irishman, mate, would say that's probably a stretch. I wonder they will try Parrott move somewhere. I know he was at Spurs. Obviously, he's gone over to the Eredivisie, doing very well over there. So I would say a move back to the Premier League could be on the cards. But yeah, I don't think it'll be with Liverpool. But sorry, mate, that I missed that initially. Thank you for giving me a nudge. Craig, would you take Trent back? So my answer to this would be no, because the only way you'd get him back is with a massive transfer fee. Like if you said to me, Real Madrid were willing to let him go for nothing, or his contract was nearly up as an example, which of course it isn't, but you know, if there wasn't a big transfer fee involved in it and there was a bit of a whoops, I made a mistake kind of scenario, then maybe. But not for a big transfer fee. No, that just would be the height of stupidity to almost like admit we shit the bed there by letting him go and then paying a load of dough to bring him back. I think it should have never got to the position where his contract was allowed to get to that point. So yeah, no, I wouldn't take him back because it would be like us doing what United did with Pogba. You know, letting him go for next to nothing and then going and paying an absolutely ludicrous transfer fee to bring him back to the club. It would feel like two kicks in the nuts rather than just the one. Cameron Davies said, play two systems next year, 4-3-3 and 4-1-2-1-2 for Isak. Well, I mean, you could go 4-1-2-1-2, you could go 4-2-2-2, 4-3-3, as you said. Look, deep down, I'd love to see Alonso come in and I'd love to see this Liverpool team go to a 3-5-2. You know, bring in another centre-back. Like, imagine next year, Canade signed, let's say, and we had a season of Canade, Leone/Xhaka and Van Dijk as the back three. Then you had the two wing-backs, Bradley, Frimpong on one side, Kirkes on the other side. You've got your number 10 there, you've got your central midfielder, and you've got your two strikers, or one striker and a 10. It would, I'd love that. I really, really would. And I don't know, if I'm being really honest, I don't know if that's adding to my desire to bring in Alonso. Because if Arne was willing to switch to that system, I don't know if that would ease my concerns about him a little bit. What do you think about Ireland qualifying for the World Cup? I'm more concerned about the first game against Czechia than I am around the potential second one, which I think would probably be Denmark if they get through. Yeah, I'm more concerned about the first one. If we get to the playoff final, if you want to call it that, in Dublin, I'd back us to get the job done. But going over there to play Czechia in the playoff in the first one, I don't know. I'm not overly confident about that. But of course, you know, we did go over to Hungary and get a result which I wasn't expecting, and that was incredible. Right. Let me ask you this to finish up tonight. Okay, so I think I know where this is going to go, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Pick one for next season. Arne Slot or Xabi Alonso? If you had to have one of these in charge for the first game of the season onwards next season, or the summer onwards next season, who are you going for? Are you sticking with Arne Slot, or are you going for Xabi Alonso? We'll touch back on that one before we finish up in about 20 minutes' time. For people coming in late, let me just run through the news for you from start to finish with pretty much what I have for you. So we started off with Alan Shearer praising Mohamed Salah's increased work rate and defensive contribution since returning from the AFCON. He said, "Did you hear Arne Slot yesterday speaking about his presser? He actually went out of his way, I think, to praise Mohamed Salah's work defensively, which I've noticed in the last couple of games. He's doing a lot more work defensively than I've seen him do for a while. On top of that, we had Anfield Sector Credit and Footy headline saying Adidas is releasing a remake of the Liverpool 1995-1996 away collection featuring the iconic green and white quartered shirt and matching off-pitch gear with the original Carlsberg sponsor. I am buzzing about this, folks. Absolutely buzzing. So we also went through and said the two last 16 ties are scheduled to be played March 10th, 11th and March 17th, 18th in the Champions League. And Liverpool will play one of Galatasaray, Juventus, Club Brugge or Club Brugge and Atletico Madrid. The round of 16 draw is on February the 27th. And of course, Galatasaray won 5-2 today in the first leg of that one. Then we had Ismail Mahmoud saying, exclusive from Wimbledon Sports, Alexis McAllister's father on Manchester United link said, Alexis is only focused on Liverpool right now. We're waiting for a contract renewal offer. We'll see what the club's plan is. Then we had Peter O'Rourke saying that Liverpool are prepared to facilitate a move from Murillo to help strengthen their defensive options. The defender is valued at £50 million, but Nottingham Forest may have to settle for less if they're relegated. And he is adamant as a player that he doesn't see himself as a championship player. Then we had Wayne Rooney speaking about Arne Slot, saying, I've met him a few times, seems a nice fella, but I just don't think for Liverpool he's got that aura about him. And maybe this is because you've just come off the back of Jurgen Klopp and it's going to be a bit difficult for anybody to have that. Then we've got Dominic Szoboszlai's agent on rumours about other clubs. Dom's agent said this. It's completely normal for the public when Dominic is performing like this to talk about what's next and if there's something higher. For us, it's not a topic. We're mid-season. He has a lot of work ahead of him in the Premier League, the FA Cup and the Champions League. He said many times how important this competition is for him. So at the moment, to talk about what will happen in the summer, in my opinion, is not correct. Not to mention, Liverpool are one of the biggest clubs in the world and Dominic is in a position within the team where he has a lot of reserve, so we're not looking outside or elsewhere. Then we had Team Talk saying that Liverpool see Michael Elise as the closest thing to a perfect Mohamed Salah replacement. However, Bayern Munich have zero intention of selling the former Crystal Palace winger and are even preparing for new contract talks. They go on to talk about a potential €100 million fee, and Liverpool also are keeping track of Diamonde, Nico Williams, Desiree Doué and Bradley Barcola. Then we moved on to a report from Calcio Mercato that said Federico Chiesa will leave Liverpool at the end of the season. He had the chance to join West Ham or Juventus in January, but Liverpool turned down the move and the Reds will want a fee of about £13 to £17 million. Then Anfield Watch put up a very good post that said, according to CIES Football Observatory, Hugo Ekitike is the third fastest striker in the Champions League this season, racking up a speed of 34.9 kilometres an hour. I've had cars back in the day that wouldn't go that fast because they were such bags of shite. Centre goals, they credit Transfermarkt to saying the clubs with the most transfer profit since the year 2000 are Udinese, who brought in €378 million in transfer profit, Sporting Lisbon, €428 million, RB Salzburg, €455 million, Lille brought in €561 million, Ajax, €677 million, but the two biggest profit margins or the two biggest earners from sales since 2000 are Porto with €732 million and Benfica with €871 million, both of course from the Portuguese division. Then we moved on to Greg Evans of The Athletic saying Liverpool are likely to be without Jeremy Frimpong for another week as he completes the final stages of recovery from a groin injury. The 25-year-old right-back has missed the last 4 games and is expected to remain on the sidelines for the trip to Nottingham Forest on Sunday. Liverpool are carefully managing Frimpong's return after a stop-start season where he suffered 2 hamstring injuries before the latest setback. So I thought that was good news because I thought he might have been out a little bit longer. So to hear that Frimpong might be just a week away, I put that in the positive column. Grim Reaper said, Craig, we have to get Champions League final. Imagine we're drawing 2-2. We go into stoppage time. Isak subbed on 95th minute and he gets the ball and scores a screamer. Absolute cinema. Oh, yes. The nipples will be out at that point, bro. The nipples will be out in full display. Anthony Lockery, how are we, Anthony? So, do you think VAR should be binned? And do you actually like it? I think the Villa-Newcastle game showed why we do need the technology in the game. Referees can't control the game without VAR. I've actually been thinking quite a bit, Anthony, about the VAR situation. And the example you gave is a very good example and one that's been discussed a lot. Chris Kavanagh has been dropped this week from top division football refereeing for the week. So it got me thinking a bit about it. And ultimately, there are some aspects of VAR that are understandable and probably are beneficial. But that one phrase, clear and obvious error, I think accounts for a lot of the problems with VAR. Because let me just paint you a picture. Referee gives a penalty, then VAR have to decide if that penalty should be overruled or not, and then you hear the clear and obvious error. But then it's ref doesn't give a penalty and play goes on. And how many times have you heard VAR look at it and say that, well, they can't call the ref to the monitor because it's not a clear and obvious error? Not that it might be the wrong decision, ref, maybe have another look at this. I don't like that language and I don't like that phrase because it isn't definable. What the fuck is a clear and obvious error? It's not set out in stone in black and white, is it? So that's the part of VAR that really does my head in. That and the over emphasis on looking for problems. You know, how far do you go back? If you need to look at something 10, 15 times in slow motion, we're just nitpicking then. You know, semi-automated offside, look, it is factual. You're either on or you're off. It can be frustrating, but it's a factual thing. You're on or you're off. But VAR, that phrase, that one phrase has caused, I think, more problems for VAR than anything else. The clear and obvious, because it just isn't definable. And it gives so much scope for, I want to say, potential manipulation, because I'm certainly not accusing any referees of manipulating it, but what is clear and obvious? And again, it seems to be not only a phrase used to justify our frustrations, but to justify them making mistakes. You know, how many times have you seen Dermot Gallagher on Sky talking about clear and obvious? Again, what the fuck is that? It's like the handball rule. That's a joke, an absolute joke. The fact that a handball is different for an attacker and a defender, which it is, which the fact that the handball is treated differently in the Champions League and in the Premier League. And how can the PGMOL or any set of referees in any league be able to interpret the rules? Like, think about that. In football, we have a situation where we're talking about how particular bodies of officials interpret the rules of the game. The rules of the game shouldn't be open to interpretation. The rules of the game should be fairly fucking simply said out. It is or it isn't. Something is this or it is that. In this circumstance, you're supposed to do this. In that circumstance, you're supposed to do that. It does my head in. So, look, it's a difficult job. And nobody's perfect. But one thing nobody will convince me otherwise of is that in this day of VAR, referees don't sometimes bottle decisions. And don't sometimes think, I'm not going to give it. If I've got that wrong, VAR's going to let me know. And that's what I think part of the problem for Chris Kavanagh was in that Villa game. That referees, and they might disagree, referees have become so used to having that to bail them out that it stopped them making the decisions or being as sharp as they need to be. That's my take on it anyway. Again, don't know how you guys feel about it, but that's the best answer I can give you to the VAR question. And I have spent quite a bit of time thinking about that. Now, to counter what I've just said, Miguel Delaney said he spoke to referees who obviously, you know, VAR has been a fairly recent introduction. A lot of these referees will be 15, 20 years in the job from when they started to get up to the level they're at in the Premier League. And they disagree with the fact that they almost wait for VAR. They think they still make the decisions as sharply or as definitively as they would have beforehand. I don't agree with that, though. And I think the Chris Kavanagh situation with the game at the weekend, the Villa-Newcastle game, just showed that up. That they're so used to those decisions that they don't make them anymore. But the handball rule needs to be sorted out because it is one of the biggest frustrations in football at the minute. Like, for such something that should be such a fairly simple rule, it really has been the focus of so much frustration for football fans over as long as I can remember, really, around handball. Like, what is accidental, what is intentional. Then we've got the whole making your body bigger. It's just, yeah, it's frustrating. So they're the things with me, with our things that I've liked. I love goal line technology. I mean, what a fantastic implementation that's been. I love the foam spray that the referees have. I mean, I can't believe it took that long for anyone to come up with the idea, but it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, there are a couple of the things that annoy me. Handball and the clear and obvious error are the two things that I'd like to see them work on and sort out. What's your favourite movie and what snack to pair? So my favourite movie, Shane, depends on what type of mood I'm in. Sometimes I want to sit there and watch something old school like A Bronx Tale or Scarface or something like that. Other times I want something simple and a comedy to watch. So what will be my favourite? If I had to sit down to watch a movie, probably The Shawshank Redemption. If I had to just depend, it didn't matter what mood I was in. If I had to sit down and watch one, Shawshank Redemption, Rocky, Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. Yeah, but what I always find myself going back to watching though are Goodfellas and A Bronx Tale. They're two movies that I probably watch 10 times a year each. Good question though, man. Oh, and snack to pair with it. So I don't really tend to eat when I'm watching movies because of my jaw. My jaw makes a clicky noise when I eat because I've got issues with both the joints in my jaw. So I can't really hear when I eat. So I don't really snack when I'm eating. But if I did have to have one, um, what would it be? I hate popcorn, so it wouldn't be popcorn. Probably peanuts. Yeah, probably some form of peanuts. Um, yeah, I like peanuts, so probably peanuts. Craig, hello, in the voice from Seinfeld. I love Seinfeld. What a show. I was doing Shawshank Redemption for my leaving cert this year. That's class. On the book of Shawshank Redemption, I believe Red, which is the character played by Morgan Freeman, I believe he was an Irishman in the book. I also think as well, sometimes a penalty feels in football, it feels overkill for the situation, if that makes sense. Like, you know the way sometimes the players running out of the penalty area, away from goal, but they get fouled inside that area. A direct shot from 12 yards doesn't feel like a proper fit for that type of denial of an attack. You know, almost certain they're not going to score from it, but any foul in the 18-yard box being a penalty kick it can feel really harsh at times. You know the way in, and I don't know how this would work, but you know the way in hockey, field hockey, they have short corners. I often wondered, is there some variation of that football could come up with? Because I think a penalty should be reserved for blatant things. Like, I'm fed up of looking at results on my phone and looking at Madrid winning a game by a goal and seeing it being a 95th minute penalty. Like, penalties bail out too many teams, in my opinion. And, you know, I just don't think sometimes a penalty is a fitting punishment for a minuscule foul. You know, a free shot from 12 yards for a professional footballer, you know, I think that's basically a goal. So to give that, I think that the foul or the circumstance should be pretty clear that they were more than likely going to at least get a good shot on target out of it. Indirect free kick. You don't see enough of them, in my opinion, these days. Like, when I was growing up playing football, if you were jockeying to block the ball, you could be done for obstruction. When's the last time you've seen obstruction given in professional football? I can't think of it. The only time I remember seeing indirect free kicks being given is when we played and Mignolet picked up what was deemed to be a back pass. Or something like that. I can't, like, when I was playing football, the amount of indirect free kicks that were given was insane. You just don't see so many of them these days. And particularly obstruction. I cannot remember the last time I seen an indirect free kick given for obstruction. I don't know why, but I prefer Slot over Alonso. Favoritism aside, Liverpool team last year beat his unbeaten Leverkusen side 4-0. It was Enrique, different story. To be fair, though, we did have a better team than Leverkusen. So there is that. But I also understand your point, and I agree with you in that from the point of view of Enrique being the number one choice. That would be for me as well, mate. Here's a question for you, Craig. What team was the first to use the daft blocker? Oh, draft blocker. You mean behind the wall? Oh, I've no idea. Who was the first team to start doing that? Haven't got a clue. Yeah, no idea. Good question though, but certainly when I was playing footy, it wasn't. Nobody thought about putting a player lying down behind the wall. I never remember seeing it when I was playing or anything. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good question though. Declan Riley said, I loved indirect free kicks in the box growing up. It was madness. We won the league with an indirect free kick when I was growing up against Joe's. We got an indirect free kick and we didn't score it the first time, but they moved too quickly and the ref made it be retaken and we scored and won the league. So I always have a soft spot for indirect free kicks for that reason. If Aubergine, Orgosh, Cullen were offered to Liverpool, which one? Pass, pass, pass. None, mate. Respectfully, none. And I don't. I'm Irish, and I should want to answer for you, but no, none, mate. None of them are Irish. None of them are Liverpool level. So don't forget our poll that is running at the minute. Let's see. In the last, we'll go to 11, so we'll go for 10 more minutes. But if you haven't voted yet, please do. We're asking, pick one for next season if you had to pick Arne Slot or Xabi Alonso. If I had to pick 5 current Liverpool players for a basketball match, who would I pick? Oh, Virgil, obviously, because he's huge. Ekitike. Alisson. Kirkes. So Virgil, Ekitike, Alisson, Kirkes, and probably Ibu as well. You know, I can see Ibu taking up the LeBron James kind of role there. So yeah, Kirkes, Alisson, Ekitike, Virgil, and who was the last one I just said? Canade. Yeah, they'd probably be my 5. If Matip was still playing, I'd have probably got Matip in there as well for the height. But yeah, that yeah, I'm comfortable with that 5. Wally Hack said, I honestly think England can win the World Cup, and I'm 47 years old, seen a lot of failures. I was only saying earlier on, mate, if it was in Europe, this tournament, I think England would probably do it. I just wonder, with the temperatures in the summer over in certain parts of the United States, and well, I actually don't know where all of England's fixtures are, if they've any in Canada or Mexico, but with the summer temperatures over there, I wonder, I think that might hold them back. But if it was in, like, let's say, Spain, Portugal, something like that, and I know it'd still be warm there, but I think that might be the thing that would stop me really thinking England can do it. Because squad-wise, talent-wise, it's there. Strength and depth is absolutely there. Very, very capable coach as well. So yeah, if I had to push earlier on, we were trying to pick, I think it was kind of a toss-up between Spain and Argentina. I would love to see Harvey Elliott under Alonso, but it seems he's set to leave. Yeah, it'll be very interesting actually to see what does happen there with Harvey and where he ends up next season. Um, selfishly, I'd love him back at Liverpool because I really like Harvey Elliott. But you know, if Alonso came in, maybe. But I just don't think he has a future under Arnott at Liverpool. But if Alonso came back in, would he want him in? I don't know. Remember when Gerrard said that the England he played in were egotistical losers? What do you think about it? I think he meant more that, again, they weren't really a unit. If you look at the great international teams over the years, they're not made up of individuals. They're made up of a unit, a collective. And, Spain are a good example of that, especially when you look at the fact they don't really ever have a top quality striker there in recent times for Spain. And Argentina, it wasn't just all about Messi as well. They all put in a shift and got it done. But there probably was too many egos in the dressing room. I mean, Gerrard was there. He spoke about it. But you also need that camaraderie and the buy-in. So you need to push aside club divides and stuff like that when you go on international duty. And that was seemingly a problem at the time for the England team. Craig, who do you think will go farther in the World Cup of the three host countries? Oh, good question. I'm going to say the United States, but I'm very close to Mexico as well. I think Canada will probably have the least progression of the three. Yeah, maybe the United States, but Mexico, especially with them at home, will be difficult, very difficult. Good question, though. Good question. What happened? See what happened in the Real Madrid game. I haven't seen it, mate. I was live when it was going on. So I heard something happened, but I don't know what it was. So I'll watch it later on when I finish up the stream and that. Ireland make it. They play Mexico City. Yeah, well, look, one headache at a time. Let's see if we can get past Czechia first, and then we'll go from there. But look, if Ireland make it to the World Cup, we need to play Mexico City. Happy days, just be amazing just to see Ireland at the World Cup. Wally Hack said, I hope Tuchel gets the England squad amongst the heat early, get them ready. Athletic-wise, those lads are super fit and very talented, playing in the best league in the world. I'm expecting Kane to shine. Well, I guess maybe, the likes of Cole Palmer and some of those Chelsea players having played in the Club World Cup last year, and the City players as well. Some of those in the England squad will have some experience of the climate, the temperatures, what it's like to play in the States in the summer. So, that'll probably stand them in good stead as well. And I wonder, how much Tuchel will take that into account. The fact that, the likes of Cole Palmer was over there playing in the Club World Cup. Right, so keep voting away if you can, folks. We've 5 minutes to go on tonight's stream. We're asking, pick one for next season, Arne Slot or Xabi Alonso. It's pretty clear so far, but you still have time to have your opinion, so do get it in. And also, don't forget to enter our giveaway. We're giving away this month a signed Jurgen Klopp frame shirt completely free. Last month, it was a signed Stevie G shirt. This month, it's a signed Jurgen shirt. Next month, who knows? But we will be giving away one item every month with thanks to our friends at the Collector's Corner. All you need to do is join the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp and follow the details in there. So scan the QR code on the screen. And also, if you do want to have a look on the collectorscorner.co.uk and you see anything on there that you fancy, whether it be UFC stuff, Liverpool stuff, other football stuff, I've bought myself quite a bit from there over the last couple of years. You can get yourself 20% off with our discount code Anfield Agenda 1. Put that in a checkout. World Cup tickets are absolutely outrageous in California. Or is that Canada? I don't know what you mean by CA, mate. Sorry. I don't know if you mean Cali or in Canada. But look, I don't like this dynamic pricing bullshit that's crept into ticketing in general across, music, comedy and sport. I don't like it one bit. A ticket should be a price and that should be it. And that's the price of the ticket. I don't like this dynamic pricing nonsense. Your opinion on the keeper situation. Strange that Mamardashvili didn't play in the FA Cup. No, absolutely, Luke. Yeah, I did find it very strange, mate. My take on it is that I'm not yet fully at ease with the situation, is the honest answer. I don't like that we didn't put a buyback option in Caoimhín Kelleher's contract, and I still don't understand why we were so willing to let go of him. I know that he wanted to go and become a number one. I'm very mindful of that. But you've seen other deals that we've done where we've put in buyback options for players like Jarell Kwanzaa. And with Kelleher, to the best of my understanding, we only have a sell-on clause. So, yeah, I'm not very comfortable with the goalkeeper situation yet because we haven't had a chance to see Georgi Mamardashvili enough to really make up our minds yet. But, yeah, I agree with you totally on being surprised he didn't play in the League Cup. Or, sorry, excuse me, the FA Cup. Craig, would you take Liam Scales? He's a fellow Arklow man. As myself, plays for the boys. No, I don't think he'd be good enough, Shane. Yeah, I'd take Nathan Collins, though. I've said that over the summer. I would absolutely take Nathan Collins at Liverpool. But that Scottish title race, wow. Blown wide open this weekend when Rangers beat Hearts 4-2 and then Celtic had their comeback. Was it Kilmarnock they came back against? That's a very interesting league title race heading into the last few bits and pieces. There's only a handful of points between it with Celtic having a game in hand, if my memory's correct. Kelleher should have went somewhere better than Brentford. Well, to be fair, Brentford having a good season. He's close with us. They're not far away from Liverpool. I think what is the difference between us? Yeah, there's not much in it at all. 2 points maybe, is it? So, fair play to Keith Andrews. He's absolutely done a great job there. And Kelleher, Collins being a part of that. Nemesis said, best Liverpool fan going, Craig. Respect, keep grinding. Hope we win the Champions League. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. A week like this week puts the shits up me. It really does, because I feel, when it's quiet, I worry for the future of the channel and that people will have found another way to occupy themselves with Liverpool content, and it always makes me very, 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 very nervous when we have these little mid-season lulls. But I appreciate your kind words, mate. They really mean a lot. Right, ladies and gents, let's end this poll. And we asked you, pick one for next season, Arne Slot or Xabi Alonso, and 87% of the people that voted said they would go for Mr. Xabi Alonso. But look, ladies and gents, I'm going to say goodnight to you. I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll have an early evening news video, and I'll be here tomorrow night for the late night agenda as well. Thank you all for joining me tonight, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. But the picture for Liverpool in the Champions League starting to become a little bit clearer. Galatasaray beating Juventus by 5-2. And then, of course, tomorrow we wait and see what happens in the other game of interest to us between Club Brugge and Atletico Madrid. It will be one of those four teams the Reds face in the last 16, and we'll find out exactly who on the 27th of February. Talk to you then.